We're calling the work session to order at 5:01, and everyone is present. So, and Giovanna's here to, the work session we're going to do is go over the budget, which is, then we'll go over the agenda review. So I'm sorry if people need to wait a few minutes for that. But the first fund is a fire fund, and Chief Copeland is out sick today. So, but we can go over it, if that's all right. If you guys have any questions, so when we get the stuff up, it'll show that our budget is very detailed, more than any, I would hold it up against any budget that anyone's adopted, because it really gives line item by line item explanation on what's that budget is for, which each line item is for. So if there's any questions as we go through, and we'll go through the fire fund. The fire fund.
We ready?
Yeah, just start, I guess. Yeah, you can just do an overview on that.
All right, because I'm going to do a quick overview of the things that I changed. All right, so we're going over, I believe, 8 funds. It's listed in the agenda. 8 funds. We'll start with the fire fund. But I did make changes to all the funds. Remember, I said our health care fund, I had budgeted at 20%. We got the actual numbers. It was actually 7.97%, which is great. I mean, I anticipated a big increase, but we only got the 7.97. So the information that I actually have today has those changes in it for you. Also, we got the Delta Dental amount. I had budgeted for 10%. We got an increase of 1.72%. So again, very good. So I made those changes. I did have to make a couple changes in the general pension and the general OPEB. Due to retirees, I just had to switch some funds around. There was a slight increase in the amount of the pension, and there was a decrease in the OPEB amount. So what I had, OPEB is for any of the employees that were hired before 2014, and that amount went from $8,333 each person to $7,700, so a little bit decrease in that. So I've got those figures already in all of the funds now, so when I send those out, you'll see those changes. The other thing that I wanted you to notice today in the packet, starting with the fire, I've got some different columns on here. We don't have a lot of room for columns, but we do have, for this one, I have a draft, and I have the draft date of September 30th, 2022. I do have on here that it's a revised budget recommended. It doesn't have the 2020 activity column on here. And this is not the final budget copy. The final budget copy will have all the required columns that we need. So this one is actually a little different than any one I've ever done, because the last 2 columns have a request amount, which is what you have the initial that I gave you, the initial draft that I gave you back in August. And this one has a column, the last column is recommended, which has any of the changes that I've made since the initial. So you'll see what the changes are. You can just kind of glance down. You'll notice right away what those changes would be. So I just kind of wanted to go over a little bit of those things and ask if anyone had any questions, since I was not here the September meeting when we went over all the initial things that we're going to cover through all the funds. I think Supervisor Stumbo went over all those with you. So if you had any questions on those, you can ask me. But otherwise, we'll just kind of start with the fire, and I'll go over a couple things, and then if you have questions, then feel free to ask. So you see the columns that I have. So there's 2 columns on the right side. There's the requested. That's the one in your initial budget that you received. And then the recommended are the changes. So the only changes that should be in there right now are just the health care, the dental, the 2 pension things that I mentioned. Okay. Now, as far as our fire, I don't, like Supervisor Stumbo said, we have the narratives all in here. Hopefully, everybody's had a chance to read them over. If you have any questions, just stop me at any point. I did want to just make one note on page 5. On page 5.
I would like to state that for the revenue, we have a 5.2% increase in revenue projected for next year.
Oh, okay.
And just because there's more people than were here before, so might as
Oh.
well share the good news. But with that good news, it means everyone's taxes are going up because the values went up, so.
Why are you looking at me?
It's going to be a question, but it's just based on the increased value. And so, for example, mine, I don't know about yours, Jimmy, we live in the same area, but mine is going up $116 next year. And there's been no new millages, no new increases. That's just based on the formula that the assessing department comes up with, and has to do with the rate of inflation, 5%, whichever is less. So it's at 5%. So if you just, thank you, Joe, sorry.
That's all right. So I just wanted to say there was one change that I'm going to have to make that we just kind of missed, and that is almost halfway down the sheet, and the last numbers are going to be the professional service, which is 801,000. We have it budgeted at $500, and he actually did request $1,000. That's what's in the narrative. He did request $1,000 increase for that, so we did notice that. I'm on page 5 of the handout, so I don't know what's in your initial budget. I'm so sorry, I don't have I just have what's on the handout. So it's a $500 change. I just wanted to let you know. We did notice, if you were reading the narratives, you would have seen the narrative said $1,000 increase, but the amount was $500. It's the one that's 801,000. It's professional services. The first set of numbers is the 206,336. And I will be sending, when we do our final, all the changes will be in there.
There's an increase in wages, 3%, which is contractual.
Yeah, we went, again, those are all the things that we went over last week, but, if you would like to
We have
go over
more
those.
people here, though.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right.
All the good things,
You're right.
you can go over them
Okay.
again, but unless there's any specific questions. I did want to say that we still are 3 firefighters short, working on getting those filled, those positions.
Where's Karen?
Karen? I did ask her before the meeting
Two of
today.
them are,
I don't know, she said there's 3 still open. So is there any questions on the fire fund? Any specific questions, anything you want to go over? Like I said, the chief is not here. We do have some capital items this year that is going back into the 206 operation because our last special millage or capital millage, our last year is 23. And we'll get to that in just a second because that's another fund. But we do have some capital improvements in here. It's the last page for the fire. And it's a total of $104,000. He needed some,
Station 4 kitchen remodeling,
right. So we had to start
appliances.
putting the capital back into the 206.
I spoke with Maria today, and they need their copier sooner, Joe, because of the new laser fiche.
Okay, we can see what we can do this year.
Just wanted to,
Yeah. So we're going to scroll up to page 14. one more. It's on 11. 12. Yeah, we need to go up some more.
We're doing the
Oh.
fire pension, right?
Yeah, so we'll,
Fire pension and OPEB.
yeah, we can go over fire pension, OPEB. Okay, in the fire pension, the OPEB, we actually have millage, special millage that covers both of those. That actually has gone down this year. Again, those are probably things we covered last month at last meeting. Those went down because the prices for the required annual contribution went down for OPEB so much. We're almost funded in that one. I think it's close to probably 80%. It's 83% funded. So those went down. So actually the amount that we're collecting from our millage need to go down, so we reduce that millage. So is there any questions on pension? Okay, we'll move on to the capital. So it's fire capital, it's our special millage. Like I said, 23 is our last year to collect on that special millage. That one has both the trucks in it. So that's our last big purchases. Those have both the trucks in it for 23. So is there any questions?
Joanne, so those trucks, I think there's a delay on those trucks, is that correct?
There might be.
I think
The
it's
fund will
supposed to
still
come
be.
next year.
Yeah, the fund will still be there, so even if
Right.
we need to go into 24, that
The fund
fund
is still
is
there.
set there, those funds are set for that specific purchase. So those will be encumbered, they'll stay right there. But there's not going to be any more collection going into it, and nothing else will be used out of it. That's what we've got it earmarked for the trucks, yeah.
Madam Chair, it's been, because, what do I want to say? Because your department answered a lot of the questions I had last meeting, and this basically centers around the capital, and that's paying for the trucks in 1 year as opposed to over a period of like 5 years, which is...
Yep, we have the funds there, so we're just going to go ahead and pay for them.
Okay. Well, yeah, and that's, yeah, I know what you mean. Paying over a period of years frees up some money that, well, I mean, it's 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other.
Right, so this is for the special, so it has to be used for capital.
Right.
So it's either we're going to use it for one project or another project or another.
Yeah.
So whatever we do is going to be put off. So we'll do the trucks if we have to do a new fire, whatever.
Right.
Was up to then we'll have to actually do that in the regular fire fund at 206, the regular operation, regular millage, and then we'll look about
Yeah.
spreading that out a little bit then when we don't have quite the
Blow.
yes, exactly.
All right. Okay.
Make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
And thank you for answering my questions last month.
Oh, no problem.
That's why I don't have any.
I enjoy it, so.
Trucks, my understanding was from the meeting that they would offer us like a discount or whatever if we paid it up front and then waited for a really long time for the trucks to be prepared. The way we chose to do it was to wait, not take their discount, but then be able to keep our money in one place and earn the interest on our own. That was kind of, I don't think we heard an offer that would allow us to spread out paying for the truck over a long period of time because they fit those trucks for us as we decide we want to purchase. So the only options I think we had were we pay and get a discount and give them all our money and then wait for a truck, and they, I guess, get to earn interest. Or we hold our money and then we pay for it when it arrives, fitted for us. Like, we can't just go out and, my understanding, again, I'm new.
Correct.
We can't just go pick that truck and.
Well, in the
order
past,
for ourselves and then load it up.
the general fund actually loaned the money and they paid back over 5 years. That's what we did last time. This specific millage is for that. And to get a truck, it takes 18 months to get a truck. So we had one for this year, and there was one for next year, but they just ordered them at the same time because it's going to take so long to get it, too.
So we're paying for it after,
After, once we receive it.
I thought that's what we decided, yeah.
Yeah.
That is exactly, we decided to,
Instead of paying up front and wait till we get it.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So when you discussed the spreading it out, you need a general fund, you know, start out.
That's how we did it last time, yeah, when we purchased the truck.
Yeah. Or, I wasn't necessarily thinking the general fund would loan it. I just was thinking about paying for it over a period of time. Yeah, as far as the general fund, that's kind of a nice outlay from the general fund, but I just thought about paying for it over a period of 5 years. But, yeah, it's okay.
okay.
All right.
It'll be wore out in 5 years, probably.
Right, right.
All right, so we got everybody's questions on fire, capital, fire pension. Anybody? All right, we'll move on to the BSR 2 fund. That's our bike, sidewalk, recreation, roads, general. That's our special millage that we use for any of those type of things. This one has no wages or fringes. This is just definitely just there for repairs, whatever we would need for parks, improvements for roads. I did split out this year, that's new. Again, so you can see the revenues on here. The only thing on the revenues that I do want to point out is the general fund will be supplying $460,000 into the BSR 2 fund for road improvements. So that's going to be coming from the general fund for road improvements. But I did have to split out a new department for roads, the chart of accounts for the state wants those to be split out so they can see exactly what's done, improvements for roads, sidewalks. So we do have a new department. The department is 446. It matches what's in the general fund as well. We have a department 446 for the roads in the general fund. So this one is for BSR 2 fund, and we do have a total of $810,000 that we're going to put aside for road improvement and improvements.
May I say something, Joe?
Yes.
So we had a 6-year, it was a 10-year bond for $6 million for the roads. That was at a 1.75% interest. It was amazing. We normally do $3 million, but because that interest rate was so good, we doubled it. And our last payment on that was this year, which is about $600,000. And we transferred $330,000 from the general fund to BSNR 2, which is bike paths, sidewalks, and roads. That's the purpose of this fund. And we, in order to start, since we're not going to bond, and John, I might be a little bit different, and maybe it's because it's the economy. I am really concerned about, well, bond rates are so high anyways. But I do think that if we don't have to bond, if we can pay for stuff instead of financing, we should continue to try to do that. And this is a way of making the same payment on the bond, just doing it within the budget from general fund and transferring it here in order to help it. Is- Yeah. Yes, yeah. If the interest rate was better, then we might have a different conversation, but well, I mean, it's just a good use, infrastructure and road improvements and stormwater improvements and things that we do in the parks. And, bike paths, and I know Ms. Kaiser doesn't, but some people like bike paths, and we need to improve them and connect them, and so that's what this fund does. I'm sorry? That's it, yeah. Yes.
I like that. All right. And I did make changes on this. The BSR 2 fund actually supplements the recreation fund and the golf course fund. You can see I did have to change those amounts a little bit. They went down basically because of the reductions in the healthcare and the dental. So those went down a little bit. So I had to change those figures there. You'll see on the recommended side how they've changed. Also, I do need to update this. I did not have a chance to put in the information that you guys just approved last meeting for the tennis courts, for Club View and Community. I do apologize. Those are not in here. I do need to add them. I will bring those back so that you can see them.
Well, they weren't in the draft, because the draft is done before all this information comes out, so don't.
Right, so I will get some updated ones for you. So those are not there, but I do know that they need to be put in here, so, in case you have a question on that. Other than that, I did want to point out that let's see, narratives for Loon Feather need to be changed because that project is complete. That is complete now. Is Mike Hoffmeister here? Yes. That project is complete now, Loon Feather. Might want to talk. Well, I think we got a couple.
One issue.
Okay.
Mike Hoffmeister, Residential Services Director. It will be complete very soon. We're still working on the ADA handrail. We've involved the bonding company in finalizing that project, so we're very close.
Okay, thank you. You might want to stay just right there just a second. Mike he helps us with this as well because it touches the parks. So he knows a lot about what's going on here. I do want to say that the community center, the flooring is all done on that one, so I can take the narrative out of there. Also, the path construction for Huron, the longest one, is complete, except for go ahead.
That's correct. Phase 1 of the Huron Street Trail, which is Huron River Drive up to James L. Hart, is completed, and we're currently going through the reimbursement process through Washtenaw County Parks. Phase 2, which is the bridge project south, is obviously underway.
The streetlights for Phase 1 pathway has not been done. I don't know when we expect that. I do have it budgeted for 23 because I'm not sure.
We're doing a walkthrough with DTE in 2 weeks.
Okay, so that may be done in 22, and then I will, again, adjust 23s if that project is done. But for right now, I do have it in 23 because I was not sure, so.
And if DTE, well, there's supply issues going on, and so that's why a lot of we ordered for US 12, was it 14 months ago or so? Almost 18 months ago, and we finally have the mast arms are in, but the street lights for US 12 project, which includes Service Drive, they don't have the supplies, and Huron Street, same thing. They ordered the poles and so even though we approved it just having a little bit of trouble getting them to us as well.
So
But we hope it's going to be done this year.
So it's a timing issue, then we'll just adjust as we have more information. Is there any other questions for any of us on BSR 2? Okay, our next fund is our Environmental Services Fund. I will let Mike Hoffmeister speak to that. If you have any questions. I just know the contracts for waste management is increased 4%. So does anybody have any questions for us on that fund?
Are there any, this is environmental services, is garbage and recycling and yard waste.
Correct.
Is budgeted in here. And there's a 4% increase like you stated. That's the biggest change that there is that?
That's correct. That's really the only change going from this year's budget to next year. Just for your reference, the 4% goes from about $13.57 per household per collection of trash, recycling, and yard waste. That 4% bumps it to $14.10 per residential unit service. So that's the 4% right there.
And I'm sorry. How many residential units are we looking at?
15,200 ish.
Okay.
And those 4% increases only are applied to the contractual rubbish pickup, contractual yard waste pickup, and the recycling pickup curbside.
Each of those lines.
Each of those three lines is increased 4%.
Okay.
And we're currently in year 3 of 5 with our current contract with Waste Management.
Okay. So with that going up,
If you remember, we actually shifted, we had a total millage, and we shifted from police fund to the environmental services so that we still levied the same amount of millage rates and no increases to the taxes in order to pay for this 4% increase for our services.
that's where it came from.
Yeah.
All right.
And we do have a net increase, a net of revenue over expenditures at year end of 215,000. So that'll help with next year's increases.
What's budgeted?
Pardon me, the budget.
4% increase is budgeted.
I just went over the net income. So what, so revenues minus expenditures, we're ahead 214,000. That'll, roll into the fund balance. That'll help any increases for next year, so.
And the recycle carts will be delivered. That was an actual grant, so again, we didn't contribute any dollars to that.
So
$59,000?
we're fronting the funds to pay for the delivery and the manufacturing of the recycle carts, and then we'll get reimbursed from all three of those grantors. So that will all be reimbursable.
And so it's in your 2023 budget, or 2022, but not in your 2023 because
It's all accounted for this year.
we're going to deliver them this year.
That's correct.
Okay, there's no other questions. We'll go on to Recreation Fund. And we have John Hines here. And I'm sure he'll hit some of the highlights for you.
Do you have any questions, Roger? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so the recreation budget from last year to this year, in terms of line changes, was specifically adding or subtracting new lines, didn't change too much. There were some numbers for revenue and expenditures that the requested for 2023 was higher or lower compared to 2022. I did list those out, but a lot of them just came with the activity which has either increased in 2022 compared to 2021 or decreased. So the one that kind of starts the page off is the other federal grants, senior nutrition line. That was reduced from 16,000 to 8,000 just due to having about half the number of participants for the senior nutrition program this year compared to pre-COVID. In the revenue and expenditure line, we did add a contribution and donation line specifically for the Jazz Fest and the Rosie Show. And we also added lines in the expenditure section as well for those two, just since that's going to be coming back next year. I would say overall, just some highlights I wrote down for the expenditure. Since we only have till August 31st, which is 2/3 of the year, I'm pretty happy with where most of the revenues are. There are some that we're focusing on for 2023 to try to boost registration, boost partnerships. But when you look at our adult sports line is almost at its projected for 2022. Our youth sports has actually surpassed it with 4 months to go. Then 15 beyond, we're almost at that for our dues. Trips, we are way beyond what was expected, but that was also because we weren't sure with COVID pandemic. Ford Lake gate fees have jumped 16,000 over last year's take, and you still have a few days left in September. And park shelter rentals are about the same as they were last year.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions?
Madam Chair,
That's fine, yes, sir.
regarding the contributions to the Jazz Festival, is anything else paying for the Jazz Festival, like a grant or something?
Some of that is the gate fees that we take in on those Friday nights specifically.
So the payment for the actual jazz festival to John Lawrence, does that come from the recreation fund? Or?
No, John E. Lawrence, actually, it's his event
Okay,
that's hosted at our park. And then he pays for the artists. He does fundraising. He has a 501c3.
so we don't pay him to pay the artist? Really?
No,
Okay.
no, we haven't. We got a donation from Ann Arbor CVB, Destination Ann Arbor,
Yeah.
that helped with the golf carts.
And we did receive a donation for John Lawrence as well, so, but it had to come into us. It was a $5,000
back up.
donation, and then when we actually turned that back over to him, so it was a,
Right.
we just acted as the
How many
go-through.
people here attended it? Yeah, it was awesome. Jimmy, you never went?
It was a nice event.
Anyways, it was really, really
Yeah.
nice, and you heard about it though, right? Yeah. Yeah, and he plans on coming back again next year.
It was very nice.
It was awesome. And I thank all the employees who volunteered to take money or drive the golf cart, park people. It was really a team effort. I mean, that was a large event to pull off with, volunteers and Johnny Lawrence. I had no idea what a icon he was in that industry. It was, people were coming from all over to see some of the people that performed there. It was a great
I
thing.
want to say Robin Kesselheim did an excellent job. I mean, she had to do a lot of coordination, a lot of work went into that, so I just want to mention her name.
It was great.
John.
Team effort.
Yeah, we all pitched in, but she kind of took the lead. So, anyway, any more questions on our recreation department?
Madam Chair. Madam Chair. I just wanted to say thank you, John. I know that you haven't quite been over there the whole year, I think, but since you've been in rec and here at the township, I feel like, we've just, especially with our youth sports, you've done an outstanding job. So I appreciate you being fiscally aware of everything in the department, and you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
Any other questions or comments?
Okay, we will move on to our golf
Thank you,
course.
John.
Fund. Yeah, thank you, John. Good job. Golf course, I do have Kirk Sherwood and Will Turner here. They'll both be happy to answer any questions. I don't really have anything set up for myself here, so if you would like to ask any questions, or Kirk, Will, if you'd like to do some overview, if you want to just talk a little bit.
Where to start? Kirk Sherwood, Director at Green Oak Golf Course. If you weren't aware of it, we had an irrigation problem. Just start there. But overall, Will's worked really hard with his crew. The golf course is in good shape right now. We finally returned to a full season rate on October 1 for off season. We stayed discounted from July 1st all the way until October 1. Revenue is definitely down. However, at this point in time, I think total revenue as of yesterday was at $590 compared to expenses at $601, and that's including the irrigation stuff that's going on. So to come out of it where we're at right now and be somewhere, my guesstimate somewhere between $75,000 to $100,000 to have to borrow from BSR2 to float through the season, I don't think you can really ask for more based on the fact that I've got pictures on my phone of a dead golf course. What happened was beyond our control. We did what we could do with it. As I went through the budget next year, I talked with Will. I don't have the specific lines in front of me. There's a lot of neglect that's been done to the golf course over time. And in order to get some of that stuff up, we increased the chemical budget, the fertilizer budget, and I think we go with 20%? 20%. 15 to 20% increases on every one of those budgets. The tree budget's up. We've got roughly 80 to 90 dead trees that we'd like to get out of there, get cleaned up, start trying to make the aesthetics of the golf course a little bit more of what they used to be. I tacked on a little bit here and there as far as onto the revenue line items based on the fact that there is going to be a price increase. I would have had this on this agenda had I known tonight was the night we were doing this, but I didn't find out until after the deadline of the agenda. So that'll be to come. Rough estimate, planning on $2 increase across the line on 18-hole rounds, $1 increase on 9-hole rounds. And Other than that, at this point in time, the staff that's been there has done a great job. They've done a great job getting the golf course back around. You will see that the labor budgets are over budget. I've asked for an increase next year based on inflation and everything that's going on at the golf course. As far as having to pay people $13, $14 an hour, you're not going to get away with quality workers at $10 an hour, and it's getting harder and harder to find people. We were both short-staffed this year. That's where we're standing right now. I'll let Will talk a little more. I think we're nearing 400 golf balls.
Yeah, that's correct. We're up to nearly 400 golf balls, and it's just our team's done a heck of a job still maintaining a golf course and also restoring capabilities with our irrigation system. Just looking down the road, we could just see that with our aging infrastructure between the pumps, some of the wells, it'd just be a good idea to think about forecasting for some of those going down the road. And like Kirk said, labor costs have increased, so that's why some of those lines have been reflected with an increase. But we're trying to position ourselves the best we can to hit next year with the full capabilities and a full staff. Just really, really looking forward to the way this golf course can come together.
I do want to point out one thing. You said you might need 100,000 for '22. We actually have budgeted that he would need 208,000 from from the BSR2 fund. So that is, it doesn't even sound like he's going to meet that. So they're doing, their expenditures to revenues are a lot higher, the revenues higher than what the expenditures are. The expenditures are lower, either one, but he's not going to have to use that whole 208,000 that we actually have budgeted. And I want to say for '21, he only had to use 15,000 and it was almost 200 that they requested then too. So they've been good. I mean, we have to budget what we think, and then they end up, doing a little bit better. So I just wanted to point that out.
Madam Chair.
And with all the increases, they just asked for 203,000 for '23, which is less than what '21 was, and they're not going to use all that. So.
Treasurer Eldred?
Not that anybody or any other department has not done a good job, but what you two did this year was unbelievable. And you should be commended, Kurt, for taking the criticism from customers, mending those relationships. Phenomenal job by you and your staff up front. Will, I'm just glad you stayed after your first day. I think others golf up here, but I'm a golfer, and what I saw was unbelievable. The fact that you have green grass back out there is speaks to how quality of a professional you are.
Thank you.
So the fact that you don't need what Joe is thinking, or even if you did, I'm surprised you didn't need more than she had listed. So you guys were absolutely tremendous in what you did, and I think I could speak for the board. We can't thank you enough.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Great job.
Well, since you've repaired, because I know you've cut and repaired.
I've seen all the pipes. Yeah.
So is the irrigation system in better shape because of you're putting all these new pipes in, or is it still?
No, a lot of it's aged, and I've got a slew of pictures on my phone of places where just over time through pressurizing and depressurizing in the winters that like plastic pieces are failing in the ground with pinhole leaks here. So sometimes I feel like the Dutch boy in the dam trying to put all these leaks in because I'll fix 6 and I'll find another 6 almost immediately, and that's addition to balls. So that's another battle that just with aging pipes, some of them are metal, and they're starting to rot because some of them are almost 50 years old. And then they were also installed at a time when irrigation was different because it was manual labor at night. And so we're kind of short on what we can even deliver or what we're capable of delivering. So it's just an old system. It's just the bottom line.
So I know previously we were trying to do engineering specs in order to go out for a new irrigation system. Is that still like the top priority, you guys?
Yes, I would like to get that ball rolling again
Okay.
because I think you did the right proposal to get the engineer in to help with the bid process. But that's something that's not going to go away.
And even then, because of supplies again, they said that was a delay.
Yeah, just like we have a mower that
We ordered it last year, we still don't have it.
November and we were pushing them hard to see when we can get it. But the same thing with irrigation installs is these guys are a year or two off from the time you're able to, and then the price has gone up quite significantly in every plastic fitting you can think of. So the cost is going up and it continues to go up. But I'd like to get them in and get a price so it's not fuzzy math. We can look at
Well,
our
I know
number.
you've worked 7 days a week, every day, digging
Correct.
holes.
Yes,
I mean,
yeah,
that is, it's a very manual.
relentless.
I see you've lost a little weight
I
since
am.
we
I'm
hired
lean.
you.
Yeah, the
And
wife's
I-
jealous, yeah.
But we do want to thank both of you for everything that's going on, and we persevered, right? And
Yes, yeah.
because of you guys and what
Yeah.
you did on the front end, like Stan said, and all your manual labor on the back end. And I know we tried to get someone hired this year. That didn't work out, so we have to go back out for that position again, so.
Yep.
it's-
Keep grinding away. We'll keep getting better.
You know, and you have some great seasonal staff as well.
Yes, that's why I can't get enough credit back to my team and Kurt and everybody that took the brunt of
Yeah.
kind of get this back.
For guys that normally work 20 hours a week, working 40,
That dug
I mean,
in, yeah.
they dug in, there's
literally,
no doubt
yeah.
about it, so.
So just good job, and I just wanted to
Yeah,
see
thank
if
you.
the irrigation was still the top, priority as far as getting that.
Yep.
Will, would that include with irrigation, does that include a pump house as well?
Yes, yes. Yeah, definitely.
Pumps are aging.
Yes.
I mean, they're going to go.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what Treasurer Eldridge was saying about the work that you all have done. I was especially impressed to see that you only needed 15,000 last year when you asked for about 200. It's really a testament of how you've really changed that golf course around since you've got hired in. I think when you came in, I think it was probably our first meeting, me and Heather's. I think you got hired in about the same time we got on the board, and you talked about 30 rounds of golf, and we were like, but you actually brought it up to that point, and so you've done some immaculate work out there. But I noticed here in the description, Joe, the narrative, discussion will be held with HR regarding salary adjustment for our golf director. That's correct?
That is correct.
The director pay, normally the board sets any kind of increases, is that right, normally?
Yeah, you would-
I know we've increased pay for other directors based on whether it's merit or based on doing more responsibilities. I think our golf director had a whole year with no assistants. I think that this definitely would warrant some kind of increase. I think he's the lowest paid director we have, so getting
Yes,
him up
he
to
had an
a,
assistant.
hold on, yeah, hold on
He had
one
an
second.
assistant.
I'm not finished yet. I think bringing that pay scale up to a more reasonable pay, 70K would be more reasonable, I think. So I hope those conversations go well, and it comes back to the board, whenever that does, even if I'm not here. I think that you've earned it. And really, the entire golf staff, I think all the salaries should probably be analyzed and really increased. It's done a great job out there, so.
The point I just want to say is that we had a assistant golf pro. We didn't have an assistant superintendent. So we did have the assistant golf pro. I just wanted to.
And Madam,
And I think our golf director actually did a lot extra because we didn't have certain positions filled, so.
Everyone did.
But I did not have an assistant in 2021. So I went the whole year without an actual assistant. in
That's what I
2021.
thought,
That's
yeah.
if that's where you were going. But,
Yes? Peters.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Newman?
Quick question. Were we ever reimbursed for the insurance for the
Not yet.
holes?
We're going to get reimbursed a portion of the invoices that we've incurred. I think that Mike and Will continue to try and get the golf course, or think in Kirk as well, to stay operational and they're gathering those invoices, there's two components that the insurance companies say they're going to reimburse. One has to do with the low voltage communication wiring, and another has to do with the Rainbird computers, whatever that is. So I think I have no idea right now how much it's going to be beyond the fact that the insurance, as I reported in previous letters, are going to reimburse us in those two categories, the total amount of which I think right now we probably won't know until probably the golf season has gotten closer to an end. I did raise with Mike and Will the issue of winterization of the irrigation system, because at some point in time, that system will be winterized. And I've been tracking the number of golf balls in my letters. I didn't know you're up to 400. That one. I didn't get that memo. But I do think that if we can try and get as many golf balls out of that system before you winterize it, if it's winterized, I have no clue what's going to happen. Maybe you do in the spring of next year in regards to that system out there. It wasn't until I actually got the drawings, which I do not quite understand, that I realized that there's miles and miles and miles of conduit under the Green Oaks Golf Course. And I have no clue as to how many buckets were dumped into that sabotage. But if you're up to 400, is that approximately 2 buckets of golf balls or close to it?
It's a little over one.
Yeah,
I think we
well-
figured 375 to 380 fits in one. I think somebody had some time on their hands and said, hey, Will, guess what fits in a bucket? But
It's
anyway.
like 350.
So,
This fits in one 5-gallon bucket.
I'm
But
not sure.
that's correct. We're going to be blowing out the week of November 14th, and as many, it's a race against that time, because as well as the balls plug water from moving through the way to water, they also don't let water drain back through. So I would freeze pipes and crack things, and then it'd be further fixes.
So the answer to Mr. Newman's question, there will be some reimbursement at some point in time. The exact dollar amount, which is unknown, but at least the MML, LPP, they have put their marker down, so to speak, that they will reimburse in those two categories, the exact amount which will be determined. But at this point in time, I still remain, as concerned as I always have been in regards to how many golf balls are still rolling around inside the irrigation system. So it's been a challenge.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I guess my question is, and also I do commend the gentleman. I haven't drove out there, but I was a golfer too, and I would be devastated if I seen something like that. True golfers, to see beautiful greens, that is heartbreaking. But my question is, Madam Chair, is that with the irrigation system, is there money, or Joanne, is there money in the budget that we can prevent this again, whether it be cameras? I don't know if you got to lock the thing up. I don't know what it looks like. I'm just imagining some kind of tunnel or something. They streamed them through the whole golf situation, and it blocked everything up, the water system. Is there a way to prevent this again? And is it in the budget? Because this evidently cost the township quite a bit of money. With the insurance, as attorney said, probably get a reimbursement back. But is there a way to prevent this again? Is the money there?
There's already actions that have been taken to curb that. Would be cameras have been installed, locks have all been changed, places where pipe was exposed through the off-season, which could have been it, because I'm hypothesizing how these got in. I don't know how the balls got in the system, is the truth. I found them upon when I kind of started employment here. But there's places that we sealed up where they were exposed through the off-season, which could have been a potential place for them to be put in the pipes. And then as well as that, with a new pump system, the aged system we have doesn't have a filter in line with the pumps. There's something down on the suction cone of the pumps, but there's nothing in line that would strain out, not just golf balls, but snails or eggs or rocks or things that would pass through and also cause harm to the sprinkler heads themselves. So with the new pump house, that could be a solution to that. But this is an outlying case. I've talked to a lot of people in the industry, and this is something that doesn't happen. 1 or 2 balls here or there, but 400's pretty, it's just an outlying event. Not to say it can't happen again, but those are the actions taken so far.
I have a question, Kirk, on you glazed over the $2. Is the increase in golf?
$2 per round for 18.
Can you speak at the microphone?
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
sorry, I can't hear you.
$2 per round for 18, $1 per round for 9.
So.
So I'd put your weekend total at 39 per player instead of 37. Your weekday rate would be 34 instead of 32. Your senior rate would go from 27 to 29. So it would jump across the board that way, which when I get ready to put that onto the agenda, I'll show last year's rates versus this year's rate and the increase.
Because that is the largest rate that I recall. I know we've gone up $1 before on the stuff.
The last increase 2 years ago was that. It was 2 on 18, 1 on 9.
So 2 years ago, we went up $2, and you're going up $2 again?
And we are still well below anybody else in this area.
Well, and that'll come before the board, but my question is, are these numbers based on that?
Yes. That and this year's down because we're 5,000 rounds less.
So, until we see more numbers, it's hard to tell, because I know because we're only,
We're fortunate to have clientele that really have backed this golf course, because if you didn't, those numbers would be a whole lot different this year. So we're
Well, and a lot
fortunate
of
to have a
people
community
golf.
that wants to stand behind the golf course. They want to understand what went on there. We lost a few, but we lost nowhere near what we could have lost.
and I know the pandemic also brought out people to golf, which is that's probably the best thing, is that people got out and recreated and golfed more than they ever did in a couple years.
Correct.
But, so we'll talk about that, because it has to be, any rates go through the board to be approved as well.
And
Because that's not in the narrative, is it? The $2 and the, it just says anticipated rise, but it didn't give a dollar amount, so.
Right, but had I known the meeting was going to be tonight, it would have been on the agenda, which would make it a little easier to talk about. But I didn't know this was going to be the night for our meeting. Otherwise, it would have been on the agenda, which would have made it a little easier.
But it could have been in the narrative, though. We should put in, if that's what you're proposing. We can, that's the first time I heard it, that's all. I know we're going to raise them. We've discussed it, I just didn't know how much.
And Madam Chair,
Yes.
maybe it would be helpful when you do bring that, as you said, bring prices from other golf courses. God, I haven't played golf in years, but back when, Brookside and Saline was at least $28 for 19 holes. I don't know what the other ones, Green Oaks and the surrounding ones in Canton, but they usually run at least $28 to $35 for 19 holes of golf. So if you bring a comparison, that would be helpful.
And I think you've done a good job on getting more leagues. And that's, in the old days, Leon Jackson really focused on getting leagues out. And I see, Kirk, that you've increased that, and that helps a lot.
So I'm going to change the subject a little bit. I also appreciate everything you've done, but on top of duress, it can't be understated enough that when you're doing what you both did and your staff did under duress, like how hard that is to keep a pleasant face when you're under duress. So I would point that out. The thing that I'm interested in is, I think it's a gem that we have this green space there and that we have it accessible in the areas that are closest to the opportunity index. So I kind of look at that as green space because of the areas of the index where, the opportunity index, that side of town, there's a lot of density. And so a lot of times people think, well, green space, the parks. It purposefully was planned for these spaces to be communal and for that green space to be there. So I'm really appreciative of that. One of the things that I would really like to see us think about, and I don't know what this looks like with a golf course, is this idea of when it was built, the way we thought about golf courses probably weren't necessarily aligned with the way we need to be thinking about for climate. So in ways, if we're looking about planting trees or thinking about the ways that we can think about native plantings, and I know that you have to be careful because it's golf. You don't necessarily want to encourage critters and stuff like that to live there. But I think we do want to create an environment that's healthy, with trees that would thrive there, and there's got to be things that people are thinking about with golf courses and climate change and all that. So I'm really would be interested as we think forward, how we're going to do that and what it's going to look like to have that green space and to be useful and to be something that we can share with nature, whatever's got to be there. And I don't know what that looks like, but I would like to see that happen. Thank you.
You guys get the award for the year.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.
Great challenge, great job.
All right. So our last fund tonight to go over would be our compost fund. We do have Carl Rousey here to answer any questions. I just want to say that the biggest revenue in this one is coming from what we have expensed in the environmental services for the drop-off that they have. And when we have that budgeted at $225, I'm sorry, that would be a little bit, $225,000 is what we have that budgeted for. So, does anyone have any questions? Otherwise, I'm going to let Carl go ahead and kind of talk about some things.
The revenue based off of a certain number of yards or?
Good evening, Carl Rousey, Facilities Manager for Ypsilanti Township. It is. We base everything on yardage. We don't have a scale to do tonnage, so as everything is yardage. When residents bring off material, wood, yard waste, our waste hauler waste management is all done in yardage. So we bill back environmental services at $11.50 per yard, and it funds the compost site for that line item.
So, okay, at $11.50 per yard, you must have estimated enough yards to get to the 225,000. I guess that was my.
Absolutely, yes. Every year, depending on how the township grows, that yardage kind of fluctuates.
Okay.
Droughts, people don't cut lawns as much, so that does fluctuate.
Okay, yeah, I didn't see anything in the narrative, so that's why, I was just wondering how many yards total do you anticipate to get to the 225?
I don't have that figure with me
Okay.
right in front of me, but I could divide probably that by 1150.
Right, okay.
But I would, I don't think I'm that good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. There was just a couple points that I was just going to throw out on this prior to doing this draft. We're in talks right now with the wood sales. There's a line item for wood sales. Our compost facility does two different styles of mulches. We blend soils there with topsoil and compost. We screen out asphalt millings for driveways. So we're very diverse over there. We're just not a compost site. So with the wood sales, I'm in talks right now with CMS Energy. They're a biomass center in Flint off of Dort Highway. They burn wood chips in a boiler that turns a steam turbine that generates 400 megawatts. Mike Saarinen would probably love that number. We're in talks with them right now to procure them with some material that we have. We get some kind of rough material that I can't do much with, and it's been a tough go because you have to do something with it. And unfortunately, the end result for me is the landfill, to which is an astronomical cost. So I'm talking with Aaron Hess at Mid-Michigan Recycling. We're going to start working with them. They will come down and pay us a fee. We will load their trucks, and they will send that material up to Flint for renewable energy. So it's a positive for our site. It's another revenue-boosting line item support for that wood sales that it didn't quite get to this draft because right now it's kind of unknown on what material I'm going to be able to supply them. But they did come down there and spend the time to look at the material. And so far, everything is passed. Right now, I'm going to be getting with Giovanna about how they can pay us direct through electronic funds, something I'm not accustomed with. We usually invoice our customers, but they would like to pay through electronic funds. But again, I'm thinking working with Joe, we can get that taken care of. But that was a highlight of this budget, something I've been trying to get going, and it came fluid here just a matter of a couple weeks ago. So it's a positive for our facility.
Excellent.
Very good. Also,
I always want to finish this with the big one.
Right ahead.
So in this budget, one of the key points in our capital outlay is going to be a new screen plant. It's not necessarily replacing our screen plant. We have a 2007 trommel screener there at our facility. That trommel screener takes out all the trash that managed to get into the yard waste to get material clean and marketable so I can sell it and give it to our residents. Our machine is getting old. Listen to the guys over at the golf course. I've rebuilt pumps and trying to keep a machine going. Parts are getting harder to come by. Not saying getting a new piece of equipment is going to be that easy either, but I'm getting to the point where this machine is getting so old that not necessarily retire it, but move it over to the mulch side and the asphalt side and keep a new plant for compost and blended soils. So in this budget, I did factor in a new purchase of a new trommel screener for our facility for 2023.
Any questions or comments? 415,000.
And that's just a good estimate for the machine that we kind of built. We're talking to the salesman. Like everything, it's subject to change on, it could go a little cheaper, but it was a good starting figure.
So, sorry, if you purchased it, you're budgeting for that, but of course you could get it cheaper.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're going to take bids for it, or is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
And try to get the lowest bid.
Absolutely, and a machine also that will work for us. We currently have a McCluskey trommel screener there that's done us very well. It's a 2007. It has done us and done the township very well. I always tell everyone a trommel screener, as soon as you start it, you're making money. And I say that pretty boldly because that machine is a very sturdy, very good machine. So I have a kind of a leniency towards a McCluskey. There's not many trommels in the business, so there's a few vendors that do that kind of machine, but we're going to look and see what the best fit for our facility is.
So,
Can I ask one more thing? So,
Absolutely.
you buy a tech machine, does it have a warranty, or if something happens, they come out to service the machine? Is that included in the price, or do you have to pay them to come back?
So-
It's not probably going to break out down for years.
Well,
Is that all included in that?
a very good question. Yes, there is a base machine warranty, and because these are diesel-powered machines, with the Tier 4 final diesel engines now, there is an extended plan, a gold service plan, that you can extend that warranty out. There's a 2-year Caterpillar warranty on top of a 1-year full machine warranty. And then you could add more and purchase a longer warranty to cover any unforeseen, repairs. With the new technology, with the diesels, I would highly recommend, and in that 415, there was an extended plan for 5 years. Thank you.
and as with all of our capital projects, equipment, that will be coming back to the board. It will follow the procurement policy, just so you know. We just have it in here for a budget, so you kind of know it's coming for a request.
Any other questions or comments?
Just express gratitude. I don't want anybody to feel left out. Our employees do such a great job of taking care of the things that belong to the people. And so when I think of the compost center, I think of the dam, and things that people don't know that people are doing to take care of people. And I don't want to leave anybody out, but I know this is one of the sites with the dam that I'm so impressed by how people work so hard to take care of things and to keep them together and to make them last and take like almost personal responsibility for things. So I think we're all grateful for that. And when people think about like what they appreciate, I mean, the compost center is one of those things that people appreciate having it there. And it doesn't work if there aren't people taking care of it under duress. I mean, in the last few years, we've been under duress. Everybody has. So thank you for that. And thank you for just being a good steward for like the golf course. You've been good stewards for that. You've been a good steward for the residents and for the equipment and for everything there. One thing I would want us to be thinking about future forward is like, how do we take care of like the institutional memory that happens when somebody works with the equipment? Like, you know what needs to happen and what we need. And organizations that run into trouble when they have like all that institutional memory, whether it's somebody who's working on the golf course or somebody's working at the compost center or somebody who's working at the dam. If we don't know like what needs to happen and have no way of kind of keeping that current, we could have some trouble. Because we're fortunate right now that we have people taking care of that, but that may not be the similar situation where you can just flip a switch. So
I agree.
thank you. I appreciate it. And anything that anybody has to say about how we could start to build that kind of institutional knowledge within the organization, I think it would be super helpful for us to be thinking about that.
Thank you for the kind words.
Carl, I just want to thank you too. You worked all through the pandemic, you and Brandon, and so many residents utilize the bins, the dumpsters, because people, were off and they were really cleaning a lot out, and you guys worked right through it, and I appreciate that. It's been
We
a
appreciate
rough
it as
year.
well.
Yeah, I know it's been a long year, especially for some of the employees, and the effects of the virus on people and how they interacted, and but you were essential, and you guys just kept going, and a lot of people was off. They worked 20 hours and they got paid for 40, but you didn't do that, and the golf course didn't do that. You guys just worked right through it. The Parks Department didn't do that, and there was certain, accounting didn't do that, and there was, Mike Hoffmeister. There's a few people that just worked right through it, and I just really appreciate that.
We appreciate it too.
Sometimes we don't get enough opportunity to tell people that because we don't have meetings in person. Now we are, thank God, but I just want to say that we really appreciate all the efforts, and the residents love it.
They do. They do. Well, thank you. Thank you.
So,
Enjoy it.
anyways,
Enjoy
good
it.
job. Kirk, what about Tiger? We haven't introduced. Yeah. We haven't introduced him. I mean, it's the first time he's been to a meeting.
Thank you.
Carl, thank you. And there's no more questions for Carl, but I just wanted you to come up and say hi. You're part of the team.
Thank you.
It's a small but mighty team we have.
Yes, thank you. Nice to meet everybody. I'm Kiter Chase. I'm the new assistant golf director. So I've been started at the beginning of this season and right about when the golf course opened up. And Kirk and I
Welcome.
been running the pro shop. So
Good to see you.
yeah,
All right.
nice to see you guys. Thank you.
So that concludes there's no more, then we'll do it again. We'll go to the agenda, if we could. The first item are the minutes and consent agenda. Is there any general legal update, Mr. Williams?
Do you want to hear it now or in the meeting?
The meeting, or maybe after. There's a few people here that sorry. The first item under new business is request to approve the creation of an appointed pilot. It's a pilot, non-union salaried community resource coordinator position, and to waive the hiring process and appoint Lori Ludamiski. Did I say that correct, or did I chop it? Sorry, I'm so sorry. Lori is who I know, yeah. So, Karen, you want to?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Thanks, guys. Team, I should say.
We are bringing a position forward as community standard, wait a minute, I pulled the wrong, sorry. The community resource coordinator. And this position came about actually, especially the 3 full-time officials have been faced with a lot of calls, a lot of residents needing help and not knowing where to go, and turning to the township, 3 full-time officials especially, and I'm sure even the trustees at times get calls from residents needing assistance. But this came about realizing that Ypsilanti Township residents, a lot of them do not know where to go. They don't know where to turn. They're in need, but they don't know what to do. And the township supervisor and treasurer and clerk we've met, and we would like to propose a pilot program and actually waive the hiring process to hire Lori. Lori interviewed for another position with us, and through that conversation, we realized just a wealth of information this lady has and what she can do to help the residents of Ypsilanti Township. She wants to do that. She's made that very clear to a number of us, and we think what she knows and what she has to offer would be a great benefit to the residents of the township.
So it's a new approach that, and I know all of us are trying to connect people to resources, whether it's at the state level, the federal level, or the county level. It's really hard to get them connected. And that's, Lori interviewed for an ordinance officer position, and everyone wanted to hire, but Lori is not wanting to enforce stuff. She wants to help people. And she was actually encouraged to apply here by Bill Elling and Tom, who works in the ordinance department, because Lori is also, she used to be the chair of the hoarding task force. And so when our ordinance department would go in, or our fire department would go in, or our police, then we would connect with Lori. So that's, I didn't know Lori until she interviewed for the ordinance position, and my exact words, I love her. But she didn't want to be an ordinance officer. Her passion is really helping, connecting, and uplifting people. And she retired. When did you retire?
Well, I left the position at the end of April, but I had a lot of PTO, so I actually finished in August. From 33 years at Synod Community Services, a private nonprofit. Mm-hmm. Prior to that, I worked at Community Mental Health, and prior to that, at the State Hospital.
So, yeah.
So over 40 years working with folks who have pretty severe and persistent mental illness, and then community social work for that.
So this, I mean, and I know we've actually all of us have talked about this in the past, about the need to really trying to help lift people up. And it's within the police services budget still.
Yes.
She will attend Neighborhood Watch. We have Robin doing Neighborhood Watch part-time right now. And this would help answer the questions for the residents there and all the departments. And it's just to get it up and running and to see if we can help our people. It's just, that's really what it is. It's,
Madam Chair, can I just,
yes.
for the trustees, you may not know this, but we've been dealing with a number of issues over the last 6 or 7 weeks with homelessness. We have encampments going, and there's a void in the system. When we gather the information, it comes to us and trying to find resources. So I have not met Lori, but I know this position, when it was broached to me, we are in dire need of it, because we're trying to help these persons right now that are homeless, and between the three of us and trying to call the different agencies, it's very difficult because the response is not quick enough. It's I'll probably get in trouble from somebody, but it's a typical bureaucratic response. When these folks need help today, they can't wait 6 weeks, especially with weather that's coming in here soon. So, again, haven't met Lori. All I've heard is great things, but I fully support the position, and hopefully the pilot shows the success we think it will, so that we can make this a permanent spot as we move forward.
Are there other just questions or comments?
Chair,
Yes.
I would also agree. Mr. Colby, I've gotten calls about, oh God, tree services, mental health, food, don't have any food, can't pay their light bill, so on and so on. And to have a connection in a township, as you two have stated, where they can reach out, possibly to Lori, and she'll know the answer how to contact those departments, whether it's in Lansing, whether it's in the township, whether it's in Washtenaw County, to service our people and get an answer. That would be so commendable. And I agree.
Thank you, Lori.
Yeah, I would just echo it. I know that what we're seeing in the schools is this exactly what you're describing. So having someone who has the kind of memory that I talked about, institutional memory working within the system, helps. Because if you, like, I don't have that kind of memory. I just have the people calling me in that particular arena saying I need help. And I know what you're saying. It can't be they're on a waiting list for 6 weeks. That isn't acceptable to me. I'm not going to say there's anything we can do about it, but I don't know what's a reasonable amount of time because I've not worked in that arena. So I wholeheartedly support the idea that we begin to think about how we're going to approach this. And so I'm fully in support of this.
Thank you.
Madam Chair. Yeah, I just want to also say that I think this is going to be a great position that's being created. The only issue I have is the hiring process being waived. I know we waive financial policies all the time, and it's understandable when you don't have enough bids to come in, but I think there should be a hiring process, and Lori might be a great person, and I'm going to be excited if she gets it, but I do believe we should do a hiring process. That's just my opinion. But I think the position is going to be very valuable for the township.
Thank you.
And basically, to piggyback off of Trustee Wilson, is there a reason we're bypassing this process?
I mean,
Well, it is a pilot.
No, I mean the hiring process.
Right, but it is a pilot. It's not at this point a permanent position within the township, so it is a pilot. In looking at the qualifications of what this person would need, Lori has everything that we would be looking for, and is available to begin work as quickly as we need her to.
And, one more. Will she be accompanying the police, or as, you know, with her mental health experience, will she be accompanying the police on different calls, or?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
no, that's not the
There's
intent.
already a team in place in the county that accompanies the sheriff.
You have to go to the microphone. We can't, I'm so sorry, but we can't hear you.
There's already a team in place in the county that accompanies the sheriff's department when they go out on calls. So I'm not part of that team, but it's part of the county CARES money that came through the millage.
Thank you. Stan, did you want to say
Well,
something?
yeah, I would. I mean, just for my two colleagues, I think my 18 years, and Karen would, I think, vouch for me, I've been a stickler for following a lot of the rules and a lot of the processes. But as I said a few minutes earlier, this isn't something that can wait for a hiring process to go through that's going to take weeks or months. There's people out there who need help tonight, tomorrow, and the sooner we can get them that, I think, justifies, in this instance, bypassing that process for a pilot project.
Yeah, and I would add, I'm also a stickler for process. So I would also add that I appreciate the fact that you've interviewed already for an ordinance position. So we've had an opportunity to look at you from what was a hiring process, and so I appreciate that too. And I do agree that the need is yesterday, so.
And just to add, I mean, if you want to talk about the time Stan made mention, for me to get it out to the public, for it to be out 2 to 3 weeks for applications, to do the reviews, to set up the interviews, to do the whole process, we wouldn't have anybody by the end of the year. This would be pushed to January at least, so.
And just to be honest, we could have hired her as an ordinance department, had her do the same thing, but I don't, this is more transparent, and I don't think we could go through the posting process and do all that. But I know that she has the skills and ability and went through the hiring process already. There was a way to go around it, Jimmy. You and I know you can always get around stuff, and we could have just called her an ordinance officer. But I didn't think that was what we needed. What we really need is someone to help with her skills, which I had never met anyone with these skills before. So that's why, because I agree, and I do appreciate and understand, and we can call it a temporary hire if you want. I mean, if it'll make people feel better. But if she goes through the process, and it's a $40,000 job, it's not a high-paying job either. No disrespect to you, Lori, but I mean, because
I'm retired, I'm not.
but we're feeling our way through this to try to learn how to put together, maybe even a team at some point that can really help. Stan and I had a meeting with,
Peace Neighborhood.
and Peace is looking at buying, Peace as in buying, either working with the church or buying a building. And this gentleman, what he has done in Ann Arbor and the wraparound services, and he wants to bring in the nonprofits into one area so people aren't, there's a bazillion nonprofits and you can't get connected because it depends on if they answer the phone or the email, they're not up and running and have all their legs yet either. And so what he is proposing is that he really focus on education. Debbie, we talked about Holmes Road and the need for uplifting in the education, health, and wealth, which is connecting people to jobs. And this organization has been alive for 50 years, he said. And he was going to retire, but when he saw the opportunity and the need in Ypsilanti Township, because of the concentration of poverty, that he really wants to be part of that solution, and that's how I see you. And normally I would not ask to waive any hiring process, and it's very unusual to do that. So I do agree with Jimmy, it's a little different. We could have appointed her. We could call her deputy supervisor and appoint her, but in reality, it's just something new. So I do apologize for requesting to waive it. Normally, we don't do that, but the urgency and the quality candidate, she blew me away in the interview, and she just really did. And Belinda begged her to work for ordinance, and she said, no, I don't want to penalize people. I want to really help lift up people. So that's a story behind it.
And I will say she is a township resident, and she cares about the people of the township. That came across in her interview with us very much.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I would just like to express my, sincere, urgency that we, me, Brenda, and Stan, we've met about this position with Karen. It's absolutely needed. I know everyone on this board receives calls and emails, and I don't remember if it was Stan or Brenda that was mentioning, but we've had, this ongoing situation for about 6 or 8 weeks where we're trying to help, a homeless encampment, and it's literally like a dead end, or at least that's how it feels sometimes. And I know that Lori, I think she's extremely qualified and going to be the person that can do that. I had a resident call one day to my office, and she was like, I really just need help. I don't remember if it was a utility bill or food, but, I stopped, and luckily I just answered the phone. It was by chance. And I said, well, here are some resources, and if it doesn't work out, I want you to give me a call back and we'll figure it out. And she said, thank you so much. I've talked to so many people, and you're the first person that's ever said, call me back and we'll figure it out. And I know that Lori is going to be that person for our residents. And so I'm just looking forward to moving forward with our community resources position.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Just one.
I appreciate the dialogue. Stan, did you?
I just had one question. When can she start?
Monday.
Well, I have some standing clients that I'm still seeing from the hoarding task force, because I volunteer there. The task force are all volunteers. So I have a court date on Friday I need to be at, and I have 2 clients tomorrow, but I guess that's
But it
more
has to be
Karen.
approved.
Monday.
Well,
And I'm always happy to field questions from people, and if I can give them resources and refer them. they're welcome to my phone number.
Well, when it does hopefully get approved, I'm sure it reports under the supervisor, but I'm sure Heather and I have plenty of space to put you down between us somewhere.
Now, I don't have a magic wand. I just want to be clear.
I know, and
No crystal ball.
But even if we could get a resource guide, that we can share with our residents and just push out to the different organizations. But one of the reasons, and Commissioner Hodges and Ricky Jefferson were trying to help with and OCED from the county, but there was literally no movement. It was ghosted. I didn't know. Well, we found out that Teresa Gelati was on vacation. So because of that one, I don't know how long she's been on vacation, but we got an email today that said Teresa's on vacation, and they sent it to another person. So
I go straight to Moonson. If you need something from OCED, just go straight to Moonson.
Really? That's a person? That's who responded?
Yeah, he's the
That's actually who
ground supervisor there, and we worked together years ago at Community Mental Health, so he's kind of the get done, or he'll tell me who the right person today is.
And I do think that regardless, politically, personally, professionally, we all want to do good things for people in our community. We want to lift them up and give them opportunity that, we don't. Right now, it's really hard because a lot of the policies that are at the county and state level are concentrating poverty, and that just is a challenge that the Peace Neighborhood gentleman, he was amazing, and he knows how to put wraparound services to lift people up, and that's what we want to do. So thank you for coming, Lori. I really appreciate it.
I have one more question.
Yes, I'm sorry, John. Trustee Newman.
Does this relate to OCED's barrier busters in any kind of way, or?
Only in that if someone needs funds for something, I would petition to Barrier Busters to get those funds.
Okay.
Right, a social worker has to make that request.
Okay. So you would be the person to get in touch with OCED?
To refer folks, for the Test and Tune program, for that, to Habitat sometimes.
Habitat,
a lot of the resources that are available in the county, people just don't know they're there or how to do application, or they require them to go online and do application. And for a lot of our vulnerable populations, that's not a possibility.
Okay.
They just don't have the resources to do that, as we all know. And so just sometimes breaking that barrier so that they can get to the places they need to get to.
Yeah.
To make things move. With the homeless population, it's often more difficult because the other side of it is people do have to agree to the stipulations that come with those funds. And, right, like with Barrier Busters, you have to be able to show that you're trying to put together some kind of sustainability, not just keep paying the same bill.
Right.
And so working with folks on how to do that and following up with them to make sure they can follow through. And sometimes it's just a matter of an individual like myself going to somebody's house and helping them gather the needed documentation to turn in the actual application, like for Test and Tune. You've got to have your original Social Security card, and if you've been moved around or evicted or foreclosed on, you often can't find those papers. Right, so knowing how to get all the things together so that you can get things in motion to get things to happen. Sometimes just need somebody to sit next to you and help you do that when you're worried about where your kids are going to get lunch.
Yeah. Sounds like you're going to need an assistant.
Yeah.
There are lots and lots of nonprofits out there and lots of folks. It takes a village. It's not just one of us, but I'm just one person who, like Peace Neighborhood, I love Peace Neighborhood, I work with them a lot. And it just depends on the population that you're trying to find the resource for. And there are tons of services out there like Peace Neighborhood, like Jewish Family Services for older adults, that you can get them services and care. you can even do it through the Washtenaw Health Plan if it's an insurance issue or somebody who's applying. But you have to know where those resources are and get them connected to them. It's not that I'm going to become all their personal social worker. It's that I'm going to be the link to permanent services, because that's how we sustain folks.
Yes.
Right? And unfortunately, you know, Ypsi and Ypsi Township have always been kind of the stepchildren in Washtenaw County. The services are out there, but if you have to get to Ann Arbor to do it, and you're not in an area with a bus route, or you don't know how to get a bus pass, or you don't have a photo ID so you can't get a bus pass, right? There are just so many barriers that get put in place bureaucratically that when you know what those barriers are and you can break them, people have more options.
And hope.
Right.
Yeah.
They don't want someone to do it for them. They want someone to help them do it. Right? I'm a social worker, not an ordinance officer.
Right, right, I know. No, you convinced me. Someone said I shouldn't apologize for doing the right thing, and I really feel like recommending you is the right thing. So, thank you.
I appreciate the confidence, and I hope to fulfill that.
Thank you, Lori.
Like Brenda said, I love you when she met me, and I said, oh, you've just met me, haven't really worked with me yet.
All right. Thank you, Karen. Is Mike Hoffmeister still here? The next item is just the installation of one street light on the corner of Bellers Court and Prospect. There's a pole already there, and there's lots of accidents. So they think they can put that up quicker because they don't have to have the pole to put it on. It's a wood pole, so hopefully that'll happen. Any questions on that? We have the request to approve the contract with Washtenaw County for the senior nutrition program. We do this every year. Any questions on that? Well, is there any other business?
Well, the one about I would like us to think about, there may be nothing we can do about it, but I know that when we were talking about the budget, there was a decrease because we didn't have as many people in the program, and that's probably just going to be what happens. But I would like us to think about, like when we're talking about health, that seems like it's a really important part of it, and if we had a decrease and things are supposedly getting back to normal, what we could do to maybe get more people involved so that we could get back up to what the pre-COVID was. Because I thought I heard during the budget that we were down because of,
So we have been down from what our pre-COVID levels were, but the contract still is up to $13,375. I just put less so it didn't look like we were not meeting our goals.
Okay.
But the goal is still to hopefully get there and go above and beyond that revenue number. But I just know when we don't meet that number,
okay.
looks a little negative. But I did send the contract to Attorney Winters for his review. I should have sent it earlier, so I do apologize about that. But everything should be standard for what they've done before. It's a long-standing relationship. Great for the center, great for our community, and it's great to have there every day. Really provides hot meals to those who otherwise might not have them, and you know, it's a staple of our senior program.
Questions or comments? All right. The next item is the authorization for circuit court litigation to abate the public nuisance on 1255 West Michigan Avenue and 2715 Woodruff Lane. I don't know if Belinda's here, but it's in the board packet and the pictures. Mr. Winters, did you want to? Well, the pictures are worth everything.
I did indicate in my letter, well, first of all, Ms. Kaiser, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Sure. I did indicate in my letter that viewer discretion was advised on these photographs in regards to the Woodruff Lane property. We talk a lot about issues even this evening, but when you abandon or leave behind a house where there's over 100 birds and pheasants and all kinds of other different species wandering around unattended, and Humane Society was contacted, I did advise the ordinance officers not to go back into the house because there's a lot of health hazards associated with birds in this situation. And at this point in time, we have all the necessary documentation to proceed against the property owner who does not reside there, but against this person to bring this property into compliance. So this is one that they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. It might be worth 10,000 words on some of these photographs that were sent over. And maybe I'll speak more in my attorney's report as to what I'm starting to see more and more in the township as a whole. And so the next one that Belinda had was the one called Auto 1 at 2755 and, 1255 West Michigan. And there are just a number of myriad uses that are going on here that are not allowed by the township zoning ordinance. There's major automotive repair, there's a U-Haul business, there's like a scrap yard, could be a flea market going on there. It goes on and on. You see the photographs. It's like a junkyard, really, is what's going on out there. Again, we do have all the documentation from the title company to know exactly who should be the responsible parties to clean this up. I think that all of you, I've heard you say over and over again that we spend a lot of time and money to update our zoning ordinances and to be very specific as to what type of uses are allowed at what location and in what zone. This is a regional corridor. As you're heading east on Michigan Avenue, this is one of the first businesses that you see coming into the township from, say from the 94 Michigan Avenue corridor. And it's not a very pretty sight to see, coupled with the fact that none of these uses are allowed in the regional corridor zoning ordinance. So at this point in time, we've done all we can do. There's some properties that just are not going to become compliant no matter what you do without going to court. We do everything we possibly can to not go to court if we can obtain voluntary compliance, but then when we do, we have to accept the fact that it's because the person on the other end is not, has decided not to comply with the township zoning, property maintenance ordinance, et cetera, et cetera. So both these properties are unacceptable, and we need to make sure that they're going to be brought into compliance. And this is why Belinda has on the agenda tonight these two properties for consideration by the board.
Thank you. Questions or comments? All right. Want to take a break, or do you? All right, let's take a break. It's 6:38.